Hi, I'm Marie. Welcome back to Marie's Kitchen. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're starting a new series called Weeknight Dinners. And basically, it's just you and me cooking dinner together. Weeknight dinners are designed to be quick and easy and family friendly, so I really hope you'll join me. Today for dinner, we're making pesto pork tenderloin. And this is a dish we've been making for years, and it's always a favorite. It is so easy to make, basically a sheet pan dinner, so it is great for weeknights, but it is also fancy enough to serve for a date night in, Valentine's Day, or even a dinner party. The other really great thing about this recipe is that it's just 3 ingredients. It's pork tenderloin, pesto, and pancetta. Pancetta is an Italian bacon, and if you can't find that at the grocery store, I'll give you some substitutions. I can't wait to share this one with you. Let's get started. So like I said, the first ingredient is just a pork tenderloin, about 1 pound to 1 1/4 pounds. I have that just rinsed off, patted dry, and I've just got that sitting here aside until we need it. The next ingredient we'll need is pesto, and if you have a specialty market nearby, you can often find fresh homemade pesto in their like olive bar section or the sauces or pastas. And if you have that nearby and it's not too pricey, I would definitely recommend it. You need about 1/4 cup. But if you don't have that option, or if it's too expensive and you want to make it at home, I am going to show you how to make a quick batch of pesto. It's so easy. To make the pesto, we are going to use a food processor, and if you don't have one, you can use a blender. I prefer a food processor because the base is a little wider and it's easier to work with, but either one will work. And if you do want recommendations on a food processor, I will put a link to this in the recipe. It's a Cuisinart 13 cup, and I really do love it. I use it for a lot of things. So back to the pesto. First ingredient is some fresh basil, and while this is usually plentiful in the summertime, you can always find it still at grocery stores in large quantities. So get a big, box of it. You'll need about 2 ounces. This is a 4-ounce box, so I know 2 ounces is kind of like hard to imagine. Well, how much is that? I'm just going to set it here in this 4-cup measuring cup. If you just set it in there kind of lightly, it's about 4 cups. Now, if you packed it in, it'd be about 2 cups. So we're going for about 4 cups, just kind of set in there. That's how much basil we'll need. And of course, if you do want to make a bigger batch, you go ahead and use the whole 4 ounces. Please feel free to do that. And this freezes really well, so it's a great thing to make ahead. If you have some time on the weekend, just whip up some pesto and you'll be good. Now I am going to tear off these really big stems kind of at the end, but some stems are fine. Just kind of the real big ones there. Oh my gosh, the flavor is so good. Yeah, I can smell it. Okay, next step, we're gonna add 1/4 cup walnuts. A lot of pesto recipes will use pine nuts, but I use walnuts because they're cheaper and I think a little easier to find. So you can use either, about 1/4 cup of chopped walnuts. Next is about 1/3 cup grated Parmesan cheese. Super easy here. There goes our Parmesan, which adds so much flavor, and also a lot of salt, so you don't need to add a lot of salt to this later. Next step is our garlic, and this is always your preference how much you want to add. I usually do about 2 small cloves or 1 large one. And if you haven't seen this gadget before, it's this garlic peeler. It's a silicone tube. It's so handy. I love these. And I can put a link to this in the recipe too. All you do is you pop your garlic clove inside of it and then roll it on your cutting board like that with some pressure, and out pops the lovely peeled garlic. So really easy. I'm going to throw that in there. And now we need some olive oil. We're going to use about 2/3 cup total. I'm going to start with about 1/3 cup in the food processor, and then we'll drizzle in the rest as it blends. Okay, so we'll just put our 1/3 cup olive oil in there. Now we'll add 1/2 teaspoon salt. Okay, now we'll pop the top on the food processor, set that to low, and then we're just going to drizzle in 1/3 cup olive oil as it blends. Okay, the pesto is done. So that was really easy. Now we're just gonna put this in a container, and then you'll need a 1/4 cup for today. And then if you wanna portion out a 1/4 cup, you can freeze those and just pull them out when you need it. Now this makes about a cup total. So you should have a good 4 portions in here for 4 dinners. The next step is to sear the pork tenderloin, and you actually don't have to do this if you're in a time crunch, so don't worry about it if you don't want to get something else dirty. Just put it on the baking sheet, top it with pesto like we're going to do in a minute. But if you'd like to sear it, I do like to do that because it does give it a little more flavor and a little more color. So if you have time, go ahead and sear it, but either way will work. So first I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of salt and pepper on here. I'm not going to do a lot of salt because we are adding the pesto to it, which has a lot of salt in it already. We'll grab our olive oil here and put about a tablespoon in the bottom of the pan. Going to heat that up. And then we'll just sear the pork tenderloin on all sides for about a minute or 2 a side. You can see the oil's a little shimmery now, so we'll just pop this guy right in there and give that a sear. And then I'll do a little salt and pepper on the other side. Now we'll just give that a little turn here with the fork. Real easy. Get that other side a nice sear. All right, this looks good, so we'll pull this off the fire. Nice brown crust on there, you can see. Looks really good, lots of flavor. Right over to our parchment-lined baking sheet. And now we'll need about a 1/4 cup of our pesto. And you do want to be sure to measure out your pesto. Don't go back and forth from the pork tenderloin to the pesto, because then you'll be contaminating the rest of the bowl. So we'll just take our pesto and just spread it along the pork tenderloin like this. And if you've got a bigger family, of course, you can throw 2 of these on at the same time. Really simple to double it up. And if you don't like pork or don't have it, if you'd rather use chicken, this recipe works great for chicken as well. It's pretty much the same process, just covering with the pesto and then wrapping in the pancetta or prosciutto. Now for the pancetta, and this is, as I mentioned, Italian bacon, and it comes in these circular slices. You can try at your deli, ask them to slice them for you, or they may have it already packaged up like this. And if they don't have pancetta, you can use any other kind of Italian cured meats. So this here you have capicola, prosciutto, or some salami, anything like that to add a little extra color and flavor on top is the idea. But I'm going to use the pancetta. We'll just set a few of these, maybe 5 or so, depending on the size of your pork tenderloin, on top like this. And you can kind of overlap them like that. This pork tenderloin is a little on the small side, so I think I'll just use 4 here. There we go. Doesn't that look great? Now this is ready to go in the oven at 425 for about 12 to 15 minutes, but if you want to turn it into a full sheet pan dinner, you can grab some asparagus. We'll do that real quick here. So here's a trick for cutting asparagus. I always get my bunch, leave 1 rubber band on the bottom and rinse the tops. Then with the rubber band on there, it holds everything together while you're trying to cut it. So then you just cut down and this is your trash. So that makes it really simple. Now we'll just set our asparagus around the outside of our tenderloin here. Okay, looks great. We'll drizzle with a little olive oil on there. And can season with a little salt and pepper. Okay, now this is ready to go in the oven, again 425 for about 12 to 15 minutes. You want the pork to register about 145 and then we'll let it rest and it'll continue to cook. So this goes in the oven. All right, now to go along with the pork and the asparagus, I'm going to make a batch of basmati rice. I always like to buy my rice from either India or Pakistan. There is much less arsenic in the soil there, so your rice will naturally have less arsenic in it. And then what we're going to do, my technique here, is to heat up the pot. We're going to add some olive oil to the pot. Kind of coat the bottom of the pan, a pretty generous amount. This gives the rice some really good flavor. We're going to heat that up and then add 1 clove of garlic. And we're going to let the garlic just kind of cook there in the oil, and that will flavor the oil and then flavor the rice. Now we're going to scoop out 1 cup of the basmati rice, and the ratio is always 1 cup rice, 2 cups water, 1 teaspoon salt. If you can commit that to memory, you can always make perfect rice. It's 1 cup rice, 2 cups water, 1 teaspoon salt, 20 minutes. And if you have trouble cooking rice, I know sometimes the rice can either burn or stick to the bottom. 2 things that you want to keep in mind is, one is get a nice quality pot, one with kind of a thick core, and that will prevent your rice from burning on the bottom. The other thing is, don't take the lid off. I know it's tempting to reach in there and peek and see how it's doing, but leave the lid on for the full 20 minutes, and that will help your rice cook just right. Okay, the garlic is kind of sizzling in there. You can see that getting kind of golden, so that looks good. With this nice hot oil in there, I am going to go ahead and add the rice to that. And then we'll toast the rice around in the oil just a little bit, and that also gives it some more flavor. You'll see the rice starts to get a little bit opaque there, kind of a white, chalky white color. Now we'll add our 1 teaspoon salt. Give that another stir. Next is our 2 cups water. We'll give this a stir, and we are going to leave the garlic in there to cook the whole time, and you'll just pop it out at the end. Not a big deal. As soon as this comes to a boil, we're going to turn it to low, put the lid on, and cook for 20 minutes. So bring it to a boil. We're going to wait on that here. I need to grab a lid. That's another thing for rice. You always want to make sure you have a tight fitting lid. If the steam is coming out, leaking out the sides, it's not going to cook right. Another thing to look at if you're having trouble cooking rice on your stovetop is sometimes you'll have like 2 really big burners in the front, and they are so hot, even if you put it on low, it is still going to be too high. So often what I will do is, once the rice comes to a boil here, so then we're going to switch it to low and put the lid on. And then instead of leaving it on this big burner here, I'm going to move it to the back burner, which is a little smaller, and put that on low. And that is just a little bit smaller fire, so I make sure we have a low heat cooking that rice for 20 minutes. And that is another way to prevent your rice from burning on the bottom or just coming out too cooked, too gummy. So let's leave that for 20 minutes and we'll wait on the pork. All right, the pork is done and it looks incredible. It looks so nicely cooked. The pesto browned a little bit, which means we got some extra flavor with those nuts and the Parmesan, and the asparagus is cooked just right. So, and you can see the pancetta crisped up on top, and if you want to put it under the broiler for another minute or 2, you can do that too if you need to crisp it up a little more. So now we're just going to move this right over to our platter here. Then we'll add our asparagus right on the side. Have our asparagus over here. Spread that out. Okay, now that is ready to serve. Isn't that beautiful? It'd be so beautiful for a Valentine's Day dinner, date night in, or any weeknight meal. All right, the rice is done. We can take a peek at that. Nice and fluffy, so good. Look at that wonderful, gorgeous, nicely cooked rice. And we can just pop the garlic out. And dinner is ready to serve. Thanks so much for joining us on Marie's Kitchen. Today we made this easy and delicious pesto pork tenderloin with asparagus on the side and white rice to go with it. It was so easy to make. I really hope you get to try it. If you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. That means so much to us and also to YouTube, so hit that like button. Also, if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. I've got lots more videos coming up with easy recipes just like this, and I don't want you to miss any of them. For this recipe and more, head over to my website, mariesaba.com. There you can go and print out this recipe and all my recipes, put them in a notebook, and make your very own Marie's Kitchen cookbook for free. My goal is to give you some really easy recipes that turn out great every time so you can build some confidence in the kitchen and feel really inspired to share good food with people that you love. From my kitchen to yours, thank you.